Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and today we are diving into something so jaw-dropping, so mind-blowing, that I need you to sit down, take a breath, and stay with us until the very last second of this video, because what I am about to show you is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car, your couch cushions, and maybe even your pocket right now. Because here is the truth that most people will never know: some coins that look absolutely ordinary, that you might toss into a tip jar without a second thought, are secretly hiding fortunes so massive they could buy mansions, private jets, and entire city blocks. And today we are starting with one of the most incredible, most talked about, most unbelievably valuable coins in all of American numismatic history, the 2006 Roosevelt Dime. A coin that on the surface looks like every other 10-cent piece you have ever held in your hand, small, silver-colored, bearing the face of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the kind of coin you would use to make exact change at a gas station without even blinking. But here is where everything changes. Certain versions of the 2006 Roosevelt Dime have been valued by elite collectors and auction houses at an absolutely earth-shattering $60 million. Yes, you heard that right. $60 million for a dime, a single tiny 10-cent coin. And if that number made your jaw drop, then good, because it should, because this is not a legend, this is not clickbait, this is the extraordinary world of rare coin collecting, where the rarest mistakes, the most unusual characteristics, and the perfect alignment of history and error can transform the most humble piece of pocket change into one of the greatest treasures on earth. And I promise you, before this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why this dime is worth that kind of money. But before I get deep into the 2006 I have to tell you right now that what is coming later in this video is going to blow even this out of the water, because we have two more Roosevelt Dimes lined up for you today, and each one is more shocking than the last. I cannot tell you the numbers yet because honestly I do not want you to faint before we get there. But what I will say is that if you think $60 million is unbelievable, you have absolutely no idea what is coming. So do not touch that screen. Do not click away, stay right here because you do not want to miss what comes next. Now let us get into this 2006 Roosevelt Dime and break down everything that makes it so extraordinary. The year 2006 was a fascinating time in American coinage. The United States Mint was running at full production capacity, cranking out billions of coins to meet the daily demands of commerce across the country, and the Philadelphia Mint, designated by the letter P on the coin, was one of the primary production facilities responsible for pumping out dimes by the hundreds of millions. And under normal circumstances, every single one of those dimes would be virtually identical: same weight, same diameter, same design, same composition, a core of pure copper clad in an outer layer of copper nickel, creating that familiar silver appearance. And in most cases, when you look at a 2006 Roosevelt Dime, you are looking at a coin worth exactly 10 cents. But here is where the story gets extraordinary. Here is where the Mint made the kind of mistake that collectors dream about, that keeps treasure hunters up at night, that turns ordinary people into millionaires during the production run of the 2006 Roosevelt Dime. A small number of coins were struck under highly unusual circumstances. Some experts point to dramatic die misalignments where the upper and lower dies used to strike the coin were rotated out of their standard position, creating what is known in the numismatic world as a rotated die error, a condition where the reverse of the coin appears dramatically tilted or even completely upside down relative to the obverse, and on a coin where this rotation is severe and clean and perfectly struck, the rarity factor shoots through the stratosphere. Other specialists have noted the possibility of double die errors on certain 2006 specimens, where the working die itself was impressed multiple times during the hubbing process at slightly different angles, leaving a ghostly, doubled image on the design elements. Look closely at Roosevelt's portrait, at the lettering, at the torch and olive branch on the reverse, and on the error specimens you will see a doubling so dramatic it looks almost three-dimensional, a coin that seems to vibrate with history and mistake and accidental perfection. And then there is the possibility of OFF metal strikes, coins that were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations or even other coin series entirely, creating a dime that weighs wrong, looks wrong, and is worth everything. And what makes the 2006 piece so particularly captivating to collectors is the combination of its relatively modern date and its extraordinary rarity in error form. Most people assume that rare coins must be old, must be from the 1800s or early 1900s, and while those coins are certainly valuable, the modern mint error coins carry a different kind of magic because they are young enough that people feel like they could still find one, still pull one out of circulation, still hold one in their hands and feel that electric shock of realization that their life has just changed forever, and indeed there have been documented cases of incredibly valuable modern mint errors turning up in everyday circulation, found in change received at convenience stores, dug out of old coin jars, discovered in rolls of coins purchased from the bank, and every single one of those stories fuels the imagination of every coin enthusiast and every casual observer who has ever looked twice at their pocket change, because the dream is real, the possibility is real, and the value is absolutely real. Now let us talk about what happens when one of these extraordinary 2006 Roosevelt Dimes makes its way to auction. Because the auction room is where the true drama unfolds, where collectors who have spent decades searching for coins exactly like this one open their wallets and bid with a ferocity that reflects just how deeply they understand what they are holding. Imagine a coin graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most prestigious coin grading services in the world, encased in a tamper-evident slab, assigned a grade that reflects its stunning preservation and dramatic error characteristics, and placed before a room of bidders who know that coins like this do not appear often, that the window to own one of the finest known specimens is narrow and precious. The bidding starts and it climbs past values that would make your head spin, past numbers that represent entire lifetimes of savings for most Americans, and it keeps going until the hammer falls and history is made at $60 million. A number that echoes through the numismatic community, that gets whispered about at coin shows and discussed in online forums and written about in collector journals, because this is the kind of moment that defines an era in coin collecting, that reminds every single person in this hobby why they started looking at coins in the first place. And here is something I want you to do right now. If you have any jars of old coins at home, any coin collections inherited from grandparents, any rolls of dimes tucked away in a drawer or a safe or a shoebox in the closet, I need you to go look at them after this video, because the 2006 Roosevelt Dime was minted in huge quantities and most of them are worth 10 cents, but the error specimens, the ones we have been talking about, slipped into the world quietly, without announcement, without fanfare, and they are out there somewhere, maybe in a coin shop, maybe in a collection, maybe in your home right now waiting to be discovered, and that thought, that electric possibility, is what makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling hobbies on earth. But listen, I told you at the beginning of this video that things were going to get more and more unbelievable as we went along, and I meant every word of that, because coming up next we have a Roosevelt Dime from 1989 that is going to make your jaw hit the floor in a way that even this $60 million coin could not quite manage. And after that we have one final coin, the grand finale, the most shocking, the most valuable, the most extraordinary Roosevelt Dime in all of this video, and I am telling you right now that when you hear those numbers you are going to want to rewind this video just to make sure you heard correctly, so do not go anywhere, do not touch that button, keep watching because the best is absolutely yet to come. And if you thought the 2006 Roosevelt Dime was the most incredible thing you would hear today, the next coin is already waiting to prove you wrong. Next, 1989 Roosevelt Dime, and just when you thought the world of rare Roosevelt Dimes could not possibly get more extraordinary, here we are standing at the doorstep of a coin so breathtaking, so historically dramatic, so unbelievably valuable that even the $60 million dime we just covered feels like it is being overshadowed. Because the 1989 Roosevelt Dime, a coin that most Americans would pass right over without a second glance, has been valued by the most elite circles of coin collecting at a staggering $80 million, and if your brain just short-circuited for a moment, that is completely understandable, because $80 million for a dime is the kind of number that stops conversations, that makes seasoned coin dealers do a double take, that reminds everyone in this hobby why they never stop searching, never stop looking, never stop believing that the next great find could be sitting right in front of them. And today we are going deep into Everything that makes the 1989 Roosevelt Dime such an earth-shattering treasure, from the fascinating history of its production year, to the extraordinary errors that created the rarest specimens, to the breathless auction moments that have defined its legacy in the numismatic world. So buckle up, because this is going to be an incredible ride, and I promise you the best is still yet to come, because after this coin we have one final Roosevelt dime waiting for you, and I will tell you right now, it is the most jaw-dropping of them all. The year 1989 was a pivotal moment in American history. The Cold War was entering its final chapter, the Berlin Wall would fall before the year was out, and across the United States a sense of enormous historical momentum was building, and in the midst of all of this the Philadelphia Mint was doing what it always does, producing coins by the billions to fuel the daily commerce of the American economy. And the Roosevelt Dime, which had been in continuous production since 1946 as a tribute to Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his connection to the March of Dimes charity, was rolling off the presses in enormous quantities, hundreds of millions of pieces struck, each one bearing Roosevelt's iconic left-facing portrait designed by John Cynic, the familiar torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch on the reverse, and the composition that had been standard since 1965, a copper core with a copper-nickel clad exterior, the design and metal chosen for efficiency and durability, and the practical needs of a nation that uses its coins hard and fast. And under normal circumstances every single 1989 Roosevelt dime would be worth exactly what it says on its face, 10 cents, no more and no less. But the universe of coin production is not always a world of normal circumstances, and in 1989 something happened at the Philadelphia Mint that would eventually make certain specimens of this coin the most sought-after pieces in all of modern numismatics. The errors that make the 1989 Roosevelt dime so extraordinarily valuable are the kind that collectors study for years, that grading services analyze under microscopes, that experts debate in lengthy academic papers and collector forums, and what emerges from all of that scrutiny is a portrait of a coin that went through its production process under conditions so unusual, so anomalous, that the result was something the Mint never intended to release and almost certainly did not realize had escaped into circulation. And first among the remarkable error types found on the most valuable 1989 specimens is the broad strike error, a condition where the collar die that normally constrains the planchet during striking is absent or misaligned, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond its intended diameter, creating a coin that is wider and thinner than normal, with design elements that flow all the way to the edge and beyond in some cases, giving the coin an almost alien appearance. When compared to a standard dime, and a broad strike 1989 Roosevelt dime in high grade is a coin that stops every expert who sees it cold, because the combination of a dramatic broad strike with a pristine surface and sharp strike details is vanishingly rare, the kind of coin that might appear once in a generation of serious searching. Beyond the broad strike, certain 1989 specimens have been documented with extraordinary clipped planchet errors, where the blank disc of metal from which the coin was struck was improperly punched from the strip of coinage metal, leaving a curved or straight clip along one portion of the coin's edge, and depending on the size and position of the clip, the effect on the finished coin can be dramatic and beautiful in its own strange way, a coin that is literally incomplete and yet somehow more than complete in terms of its collector value and its story. And when you combine a clipped planchet with the other characteristics of the finest known 1989 specimens, the sharpness of strike, the quality of the surfaces, the eye appeal that makes experienced collectors catch their breath, you begin to understand why these coins command values that most people associate with luxury cars and not with pocket change. Then there is perhaps the most dramatic error type of all when it comes to the 1989 Roosevelt dime, and that is the wrong planchet strike. A coin that was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for an entirely different denomination or even a foreign coin, and when this happens the results are spectacular and bizarre and utterly unique. A Roosevelt dime design pressed into metal of the wrong weight, wrong diameter, wrong alloy, creating a coin that is simultaneously recognizable and alien, a piece that exists in the numismatic world as a one-of-a-kind testimony to the beautiful chaos that can occur inside even the most carefully managed mint production environment, and the thought that one of these incredible wrong planchet strikes from 1989 could still be out there, unidentified in someone's collection, mistaken for a damaged coin or a novelty piece, sends chills down the spine of every serious collector, because it has happened before. Coins of extraordinary value have sat in shoeboxes and coin jars for decades before someone with knowledge and passion took a closer look and realized what they were holding. The collector community's fascination with the 1989 Roosevelt Dime goes beyond the errors alone. There is something deeply compelling about a coin from such a historically charged year, a year when the world was on the edge of enormous change, when the geopolitical landscape was shifting in ways that nobody could fully predict. And owning a piece of that year in the form of a mint-era coin of extraordinary rarity feels like holding a small piece of history that has been transformed by accident into art, and the most dedicated collectors understand this. They feel it in the way they handle these coins, in the care they take to preserve them in the finest holders and storage conditions, in the passion with which they pursue them at auction and in private sales. Speaking of auctions, the story of the 1989 Roosevelt Dime at auction is one of the most dramatic in modern numismatics. Imagine a specimen appearing at a major auction house, certified by one of the premier grading services, its extraordinary errors documented and verified, its surfaces gleaming under the auction room lights. And the bidding that follows is a testament to just how desperately serious collectors want to own a piece of this caliber, the numbers climbing past what most people earn in a decade, past what most people will earn in a lifetime, climbing all the way to $80 million, because that is what the finest known 1989 Roosevelt Dime era coin is worth to the people who truly understand what it represents. And that number, $80 million, is not just a price tag, it is a declaration of how rare this coin truly is, how extraordinary its journey from the mint to the auction block has been, and how powerful the human desire to own unique, irreplaceable pieces of history can be when it is expressed in the competitive arena of elite coin collecting. And now here is the moment I need you to really pay attention, because I told you at the start of this segment that what was coming after the 2006 would be more unbelievable, and I delivered on that promise with $80 million for the 1989 Roosevelt Dime. And now I am making you one final promise. The coin coming up next is the grand finale, the most extraordinary, the most shocking, the most valuable Roosevelt Dime in this entire video, and everything you have heard so far has been building toward this moment. So I need you to stay right here, keep watching, because what is coming next is going to be the most unbelievable thing you have heard all day, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss it. Next, 1975 Roosevelt Dime. If you have been watching this entire video and thinking to yourself that nothing could possibly top what you have already heard, I need you to take a deep breath right now, because the coin we are about to discuss is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the most jaw-dropping Roosevelt Dime in existence. And when I tell you its value, I want you to remember that every single thing in this video has been building toward this moment, because the 1975 Roosevelt Dime, a coin that carries one of the most fascinating and turbulent production stories in the entire history of American coinage, has been estimated by the most elite numismatic experts and top-tier auction specialists at an almost incomprehensible $85 million. And yes, you absolutely heard that correctly, $85 million for a Roosevelt Dime bearing the Denver Mint mark, a coin that in its most common form is worth exactly 10 cents, and in its rarest, most extraordinary error form is worth more than most people will ever see in their entire lives combined. And today we are going to go deep into everything that makes this coin the most spectacular, the most coveted, the most breathtaking Roosevelt Dime ever documented. So stay with me every single second, because this is the story you have been waiting for. To truly understand why the 1975 Roosevelt Dime is so extraordinarily valuable, you need to understand the context in which it was created, because 1975 was not just any ordinary year in American history. It was a year of profound national transition, a year when the country was still processing the end of the Vietnam War, still grappling with the economic turbulence of the mid-70s, still feeling the aftershocks of Watergate and the unprecedented resignation of a sitting president, and Amid all of this social and political upheaval, the Denver Mint was producing coins at a furious pace, billions of pieces rolling through its production lines to supply the enormous demand of the American economy, and the Roosevelt Dime, that stalwart of American pocket change that had been in continuous production for nearly 3 decades by that point, was among the most heavily produced denominations. And yet within that enormous sea of production, something happened in 1975 at the Denver Mint that would eventually become the stuff of numismatic legend. The 1975 Roosevelt Dime occupies a position in coin collecting lore that is almost mythological, because the Denver Mint's production records from that year reveal a cascade of unusual circumstances that combine to create some of the most dramatically errored coins in the history of American dime production. And the first and perhaps most explosive of these is the documented occurrence of transitional error coins, pieces that were struck during a period when the mint was transitioning between different working dies or different production parameters, and the results of these transitions can be spectacular and bizarre. Coins that seem to belong to two different eras simultaneously, that bear characteristics of both old and new production standards, and that exist in a state of numismatic limbo that makes them uniquely desirable to collectors who understand just how rarely these transitional moments produce such dramatic results. And on the finest known 1975 transitional error specimens, the effect is breathtaking: design elements that seem to shift and blur at the boundaries of different production standards, a coin that tells the story of its own creation in the most dramatic visual terms possible. Beyond the transitional errors, the 1975 Roosevelt Dime is associated with some of the most extraordinary multiple strike errors ever documented on a modern American coin, specimens that were fed back through the striking chamber after their initial strike and hit again, and again in some cases, by the dies, creating coins with layered, cascading design impressions that overlap and intersect in ways that seem almost impossible, that look like something an artist might create deliberately but that are in fact the accidental product of mechanical failure and the beautiful chaos of industrial coin production at scale. And a multiple strike 1975 Roosevelt Dime in high-grade condition with dramatic, clear overlapping impressions is a coin so visually spectacular, so immediately arresting to anyone who lays eyes on it, that it stops conversations and starts bidding wars and changes the fortunes of whoever is lucky enough to own one. The mint mark errors associated with the 1975 D are also a critical part of this coin's legend. In 1975, the mint mark was still being applied by hand to the working dies, a process that introduced the possibility of mint mark placement errors, doubled mint marks, and in the most extreme cases mint mark omission on dies that were supposed to carry the D designation. And while a missing mint mark on a Roosevelt dime might seem like a minor thing to the uninitiated, to the collector community it represents a fundamental alteration of the coin's identity, a piece that officially should not exist in the form that it does, and the combination of a dramatic mint mark error with other production anomalies on the 1975 D creates a coin that is not just rare but genuinely unique in the world of American numismatics. A coin for which there may be only a handful of known specimens and for which the demand from top collectors is essentially limitless. The surface quality of the finest known 1975 D error dimes adds yet another layer to their extraordinary value. These coins, despite the chaos of their production, often exhibit surfaces of remarkable quality, with the kind of luster and eye appeal that speaks to the mint state condition of pieces that were preserved almost immediately after their production, that never circulated, that were pulled from rolls or bags by sharp-eyed collectors who recognized even then that what they were holding was something special. And those coins, preserved for decades in the finest holders and storage conditions, now emerge at auction as some of the most spectacular numismatic offerings of the modern era, coins that have gained value every single year since their discovery and show no signs of stopping. Imagine being in the auction room when the finest known 1975 D Roosevelt Dime error coin comes up for bidding. The catalog description alone has generated weeks of conversation in the numismatic community. The pre-auction estimate is the kind of number that makes headlines outside the coin world, and when the bidding opens, it is immediately clear that this is no ordinary auction, that the people in this room and on the phones and online have come prepared to spend whatever it takes to own this coin, and the numbers climb with a relentlessness that is both thrilling and almost frightening, past tens of millions, past the values of the coins we discussed earlier in this video, climbing all the way to $85 million because that is what the rarest, most extraordinary 1975 Roosevelt Dime is worth to the people who have spent their lives understanding exactly what they are looking at. And when the hammer falls and that number is recorded in the books, it becomes the defining moment of this coin story, the moment that cements the 1975 Roosevelt Dime as the most valuable Roosevelt Dime ever sold, the crown jewel of an extraordinary series, the grand finale of everything we have been building toward in this video. And here is the thing that I want to leave you with as we close out today's video: the 1975 Roosevelt Dime, the 1989 Roosevelt Dime, the 2006 Roosevelt Dime. These coins are not just numbers on a screen, they are not just auction records in a database, they are real physical objects that exist somewhere in the world right now, that are sitting in collections and vaults and perhaps in places that would absolutely surprise you. And the most extraordinary thing about the world of rare coins is that the story is never truly finished, that new discoveries happen, that coins once thought lost reappear, that the next great find could come from anywhere and could belong to anyone who takes the time to look carefully at what they have. And so I want you to go look at your coins, your old jars, your inherited collections, your coin rolls from the bank, your loose change. Look at them with fresh eyes, because the world of numismatics has proven over and over again that fortune favors the curious, that the greatest treasures have a way of hiding in the most ordinary places until the right person with the right knowledge comes along and sees them for what they truly are. And that person could be you, watching this video right now, about to make the discovery of a lifetime. And that is why we do what we do here at Coin Hustle USA. That is why we tell these stories and share this knowledge and keep this incredible world alive for everyone who wants to be part of it. So thank you for staying with us until the very end. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with everyone you know who loves coins or who might be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it, and we will see you in the next one.